Goobertown Hobbies. Welcome to Goobertown. Hello, welcome to Goobertown Roulette, Episode 3. My name is Brent, and I'm about to paint a random mini in a random paint scheme. Let's go roll the dice. The rules of Goobertown Roulette. First, I roll off to see what style of paint I'm doing, speed paint, technique challenge, etc. And then I roll off to see what the primary and secondary color will be. First roll mission is a 2 speed paint 60 minutes, extended palette and tools. Okay, time for a color roll. 6 is a gray tone for primary color, secondary color. 3 is a warm color roll. 3, yellow-orange. So gray tone and yellow-orange. Alright, let's see what the mini is. Am I going deep or am I going off the top? I'm going deep. Going deep. This one. This one. Ooh. Here's the model that I'm working with. I have 1 hour to paint her up, and I need to use gray and yellow-orange. I see a lot of places on the clothes that I can make gray. She's also wearing some furs, so that's pretty easy. Also, hair can be yellow-orange, so I think we got a strategy here. I've decided that I'm going to complete this model in 1 hour. There's not going to be any overtime. I'm going to plan this out and then give myself exactly 1 hour, and after that hour, it's done. I decided to base the model first. I put down some texture paint and a couple of rocks. Figures she can be out in the wilderness somewhere. While that was all drying, I also picked out a color palette of 16 paints, getting my grays, getting my yellows and oranges, getting a few other colors. So the rules I'm giving myself, I have these 16 colors. I have access to a couple of different washes. I can use as many different paintbrushes as I want. But at the end of 1 hour, I'm calling it. Let's go. Getting started here. There are the 16 paints that I chose to use. Starting with yellow ochre. I found that yellow ochre, desert yellow, sand yellow, those kind of colors have better coverage than a lot of the other yellows and oranges, so I figured I'd use that as a base coat to get ready to do a nice bright colored hair here in a little bit. Then I moved on to fog gray, which is a light blue-gray color that I decided to use on her pants and on her shirt, and those are kind of the bottom layer of clothes. So I wanted to get that color down first and then have the detail of the straps and stuff on top. Getting some flesh on. Again, with flesh, you never know how many layers it's going to take before you get decent coverage. So I wanted to get that on early to allow time for a couple layers to dry. Moving on to Dungeon Gray. Doing a quick dry brush of the 2 rocks on the base. I want to get those rocks done early so that I can time fill with putting brown on the base at a later step when I need to time fill to let stuff dry in a bit. Okay. Figure the hair is maybe close enough to put that first layer of fire lizard orange on. And indeed, it looks like the base coat worked out reasonably well for that. Back to the Dungeon Gray. Putting that on the boots and the gloves. There are 4 or 5 different gray tones in this paint set, and I'm trying to use them all. This seems like a good leather color. You can see that when I first put the Dungeon Gray onto my wet palette there, a lot of medium came out. These paints really need to be shaken up well if they've been sitting for a while. These Army Painter paints. On the whole, they're pretty good, but they do tend to separate, so gotta shake them up. got that base coat down. Moving on to the next color. Here we have plate metal steel. This is the only true metallic that I took with me today. The broadsword definitely needs to be steel. And I decided to also put it on the dagger. I can't tell if that dagger is supposed to be like a bone dagger, or obsidian dagger, something like that, but it's steel now. Okay. Starting to do some of the straps and stuff. This is a color called fur brown. It's like a red brown, and I really like having a secondary brown in a paint set for little details, little leather straps and stuff like that. And fur brown's a good one. The other brown I took is intended pretty much just to be the dirt on the base. That's the dirt splatter that I have waiting for the right moment. So doing these straps on the legs, you can see some little mistakes I made, and they're going to bug me for a while, but the wash step will actually fix a lot of that, which I'm thankful for. Another layer of flesh. But thankfully that does seem to be layering pretty well, and that face will be ready for a wash soon. Okay. I am getting ready to try to paint the fur on the model next. Well, first I'm doing a quick dry brush of the rocks again. But I did get out that light colored gray because I want to put that on the fur. I don't really know what I'm doing with a wet blend, but this is my attempt. On animals, oftentimes the back will be a darker color than the belly. And so a lot of times animal furs will have like a cool transition from dark to light colors, and that's what I'm trying to do with the fur that she's wearing here. Started with a really watery layer of that light gray. I'm working in a darker gray, and then I'm going to work it towards black, kind of more towards the center of her back. And someone who actually knew what they were doing with wet blending could do a better job, but this is my attempt, and it's serviceable. It's what we get. Doing this on the clock, time to move on. Close enough. Back to Fire Lizard Orange, getting a better layer on there. Hitting a few spots that I missed in the first place. Making a few little mistakes, not too bad. Again, just want to have a real solid coat down before I start hitting this model with washes. I am planning to hit the face and the hair with Reichland Flesh Shade, and pretty much the rest of the model with Nuln Oil. Alright, I just pulled out the lightest color of gray that I have. That's some spaceship exterior, and I'm using it to hit the bows on this model. So, this seems to be the major quirk of this lady, having bows all over the place. She has a bow that otherwise I would have thought was like a bandage on her leg, but it's tied in the same style that she has tied her clasp and what seems to just be a decorative bow hanging off her back. So she's got 3 pretty prominent bows on her. I don't know what character this is supposed to be. Maybe that's part of her backstory. Maybe the artist was just having fun when he modeled those on. I don't know. Okay, I noticed a little more fur on the model. Going in real quick to do that. That is a even worse attempt at a wet blend, but there you have it. One more layer of flesh. Coming back with that fog gray. Again, getting this model ready for a layer of Nuln Oil. And I want to make sure that those base colors are coming through nice and strong. This fog gray is bluer than the other grays, and it's kind of the one that's outside of the progression of the others. So it's a good color to have in multiple places on the model, coming through from behind a lot of the details, on the shirt and the pants. You can see that mistake on the fur brown is still there on that strap on her left leg. Oh well. Okay. I'm getting ready for washes, and so right now I am killing time. And so I'm using my carefully planned kill time step of paint the base. So slapping that dirt spatter brown down on the base. Going for like a muddy spring is what I'm thinking. She's dressed in her winter clothes and her furs and everything, but this is going to be a muddy spring model. Realized I forgot a little bit of metal there on her elbow pad. Coming back with that. And again, knowing that I'm about to do a lot of washes, but also knowing that a lot of the paint on this model is still quite wet. Dropped my palette cam. Nice delaying tactic there. The clock's still going though. I'm a professional. Gotta keep going. Okay, it's time to start on washes. Can't let paint dry anymore. The face and the hair are close enough to dry, so I pulled out that Reichland Flesh shade, that reddish brown wash. And it's a good color for shading, both the hair and the face. And it also makes a better distinction between the two in the crevice there between the hair and the face. Next up is Null Oil. The problem we're walking into, though, is that most of these colors are still wet. And so you see that I've grabbed the smallest brush that I have, or one of the smallest ones, and I'm trying to target wash the areas that I think are the driest. I went at one of those boots first, and then I tried out the fur, and really finding out that many of these layers of paint are just too wet to hold a wash right now. It just blends in and takes me farther away from dry paint is all that's going on. So, again, I would rather just be using a huge brush and hitting everything below the head with this Null Oil, but so many parts are still wet that I'm afraid that I'll just smear paint everywhere, so I got that small brush and I'm trying to target things. Okay, again a delaying tactic, but a necessary one. I've decided that maybe the face wash is dry enough to try some eyes. So, those eyes are about as good as I normally do, but I am proud of myself for at least keeping the model in the camera shot while I was doing the eyes. A lot of times I will take the model and hold it right up to my face where I'm doing these fine details like that. Wow, I got that pupil in a decent spot. Let's see if I can do the other one. How's that going? Huh. Those eyes are like facing the same direction. How about that? Okay. So I wasn't too worried about the fact that the eyes were the wrong shape at first. I'm coming back in with some flesh to try to tighten up the shape of the eyes. That came out okay. I should have used a darker flesh tone for that. I should have mixed in a little bit of brown to give a little more shading behind the eyes, but it's okay. It's okay. Alright. So, I just pulled out the elf flesh, which is what I had, in store for like a face highlight color. In this case, I'm just using it to mix in with a little bit of red to try to get a lip color going. And that's okay. I didn't apply it very well, but the actual color mixing turned out decent. And just to get another detail onto the face, I pulled out a little bit of blue. Really the only striking color in the whole paint set there. Just to try a little bit of a face tattoo. Again, just getting a little more barbarian character onto this lady. Okay, I'm off screen for a little while. What am I doing? What did I get? Why was I off screen? Was I looking for something? Did I find something? What's going on here? Am I just letting the model dry? What's going on there? Alright, I found some tufts of grass. Again, this is to kill time while the model dries, but also I decided that this would be a quick way to add a layer of polish to the model. And the base is dry enough to be sticking these down. And yeah, so I think these are from Army Painter. These are tufts of grass. I have a couple varieties there. I like them on a lot of different models. You can see that one of them actually has some red paint on it, which was unintentional. Those tweezers had recently done Goobertown Roulette episode 2, where they'd been used to hold a red sponge, so there you go. Okay, anyway, back to Null Oil. I am using, as originally intended, a much larger brush to hit a lot of areas very quickly with it. The time spent messing around with the base paid off in that much of the model is now dry, so that I can hit all those areas that I wanted to with that Null Oil. Really shade everything. Because most of the model is gray tone, yeah, that blackish wash really makes sense. Okay, dry brushing the hair with that fire lizard, and then moving to the highlight color Phoenix Flames to do another dry brush layer to bring that up even higher. Yep, getting those highlights on there. And again, this step is all sort of calculated to be allowing me to let that Null Oil dry. Null Oil is not quite dry, but I do need to go in and do a couple of highlights. I decided to take that spaceship exterior out again, try to bring those bows to a lighter, happier color. Sort of highlight, sort of just fixing what the wash did to them. And we're running out of time here, so I'm trying to decide if I want to highlight anything else. The bows are a priority though, because I don't want them to be too badly stained, so I'm just trying to fix that Null Oil wash. Okay, going in to edge the base, and then I'm pretty much ready to call this model done. Time is not quite out, but I don't have any great ideas on what to do in the last minute or two, so I'm going to finish this base and call it good. I finished the model, and it looks alright. Apparently, I painted Ygritte from Game of Thrones if she was cosplaying as Jon Snow, and that's a reasonable place to end up, I think. This was some good practice. I got to work on my strategies for speed painting, got to play around a little bit with some wet blending. Of course, that wet blending slowed down drying time, which interfered with the Null Oil wash, but hey, that's alright. All part of the learning process. This model is done. There is no overtime. This is going into storage, and I'm moving on to bigger and better things. There you have it. Another speed paint is on the books. This one raised some interesting strategy questions, just in terms of letting paint dry. Especially at that wash step where the entire bottle is wet at the same time, and then, what do I start painting next? So let me know in the comments below how you would have handled that. Is it worth just setting the model aside for a few minutes to let things dry, or is that a waste of precious moments? Let me know. Also, make sure to subscribe and see what I get up to next. Alright, that's it for this time. Thanks for tuning in.